It's one of our favorite days of the week. It's Mailbag Monday, and you asked the following questions. Did Arte hold back money this offseason from a shortstop so that he could pay Shohei Ohtani? And what about this Bally Sports bankruptcy thing? How's that going to affect spending? And it's easy to forget about how young Joe Adell is. So what can young Joe Adell do to help this Halos team this season? It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day. Every show is free and available on all platforms like Apple Podcast and Spotify. And the best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. And those watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click that bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. You can make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started.
Hey, thanks for being here with us for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We're excited for this edition of Monday Mailbag because it means we are back to 5 days a week, and we're so happy you decided to be here with us. So thanks for hanging with us during the offseason. Pitchers and catchers report this week. It's officially baseball season. Football's over, done with. It's finito, so let's move on to the best sport out there, and that's baseball, my friend. Good to have you back, Mike. Glad that your voice is feeling stronger, that you could do the show today.
Yeah.
And we'll try not to put too much pressure on you. So
I just brought my prepubescent voice right now for this show.
Please make that the last time you say prepubescent.
I will.
Hey, our first question comes from Anthony Aguiluz on Instagram for today's mailbag episode. He said, "Hey guys, wondering what your ideal opening day roster would look like. Here's mine. Let me know what you think and what changes you would make. Thanks, guys." He said he would put Ward first in left field, Trout in center field, Ohtani DHing, Rendon batting cleanup at third base, Drury at shortstop batting fifth, Walsh at first base batting sixth, Hunter Renfroe in right field batting seventh, Stassi at catcher, and Rengifo at second, with Fletch coming in after the seventh. He would have Rengifo batting ninth. Mike, what do you think of that lineup?
I really like his thought here. I think I would switch Drury. I don't think that Drury's actually going to play shortstop to start the season. I think that he'll play second base.
Yeah.
I would flip him in the lineup with Hunter Renfroe. I think you want Renfroe's bat higher up in the lineup, maybe number 5. Having Drury at 7, I think would still be great for him. Right. And I think Renfroe playing right field is obviously where he's going to be. Obviously, Ward will be in left. I like Luis Rengifo at the bottom of the lineup, but I think that he'll be the shortstop. And so those would be the only pieces that I would mix and match. Although overall, I like what Anthony's come up with. What do you think?
I'm interested to see who the A's will run out there on opening day to start, because if it's a lefty, I think Urshela gets the start at first base. But I think that Walsh is a great option, of course, if it's a righty. I like the amount of lefties and righties we have. We have Ohtani batting left, Walsh batting left. We've got Rengifo who's a switch hitter, so he could take advantage of that as well. Mike, the one thing I'm hung up on, and I know we posted about this a few days ago, something that you and I had talked about previously, Trout's got to have more RBI opportunities. I want to see him with more runners in scoring position. And honestly, Rendon gets on base at a pretty good number, and obviously he can drive people in too. He's got some great numbers with runners in scoring position. But Mike, I think Trout's whole game has changed since last year, and I think he's going to mash, and I think he needs to bat cleanup. So I'm going to go Ward, Rendon, Ohtani, Trout, Renfroe, probably Walsh, Drury, Stassi, and Rengifo. And I do like Fletch coming in to play defense after that, or even Velasquez if it's a winning game, right? At the end of the game, if they're up and they need good defense. So that's my thought on that. I want to see I want to see Trout bat cleanup this season. Yeah. I think that it's time.
MLB.com said that he's going to hit 39 home runs and lead the American League this season. And so I could see him being around the 39, 40 home run mark. And so if he's batting cleanup, he will have those RBI opportunities. Johnny, I do think that I would stick with Trout at the number 2 slot, just at least at the beginning of the year,
Okay.
because that lineup seemed to work when everybody was healthy last year.
True.
Plus, you have all of these pieces with Renfroe and Rendon back. So I wouldn't want to mess with it too much unless you start to see some guys fall off or you're not really getting the production that you want. I think I would leave it alone for maybe the first few weeks to see what I have. And I could see Phil Nevin going in that direction.
Yeah, don't mess with success. I get you there. Hey,
Yeah.
Jason Q.K on Instagram said, what are your thoughts on Luis Rengifo for the 2023 season? How do you feel about Rengifo?
I'm excited about him, Johnny, because I think he's proven that he is a major league ball player. And last season, he really proved that. And I think he needs to get at bats. He was somebody who showed us that if you give him enough at bats, he can come through for you. And plus, he can play all over the infield, and he played a little outfield as well. So I think he's an asset to this team. What do you think about Louis?
I actually am coming around on him at shortstop. I know it's like his weakest defensive position, and he'll possibly get some time at second base. We'll see how that shakes out in spring training, because I know Drury wants to compete for shortstop, and so that will be interesting to watch. However, I think with Rengifo, you made a really great comparison to Eric Ibar and how he started at shortstop. We think of him as one of the greatest shortstops we've ever had, but it wasn't always like that. And I think that if you give Rengifo some time to say, hey, dude, you're going to be shortstop, then I think that he can work with that. I think the bat is great. I think the 17 home runs is encouraging. And I think that he finally stepped forward in 2022 and will step even more forward in 2023. Hey, Charlie Hess on Twitter, Mike said, should the Angels sign Elvis Andrus to fill out shortstop and the starting need, and then sort out the shortstop depth by either using them as a backup or trade for a relief pitcher? What do you think about, first of all, getting Elvis Andrus and then maybe using one of those shortstop pieces to get some relief help? What do you think?
I really like this team, and I think that GMPM really likes this team. And so I think, honestly, he's going to stand pat with what he has. I get that Elvis Andrus is a veteran, and he could come in and probably provide some pop. But I think that what you get with Rengifo and Drury and Urshela is really positive. And so adding Andrus to this would only be, I think, a side move. It wouldn't be a forward move, in my opinion. I think it would be kind of like wasting side energy, and we would really want to move forward. I'd rather see Rengifo as the starter than Elvis Andrus as the starter.
Yeah, I think between Fletcher and Rengifo, you're going to get the good production that you might get out of an Elvis Andrus, especially, they both had 17 home runs, Rengifo and Andrus.
Right.
And you've got some younger guys there as well. So I think that it's important for the Angels to stand back.
Rengifo's cheaper. And so not adding that extra resource, I think, would be a really wise thing. And then he talks about like maybe making a trade for a bullpen piece. I think that there's still some guys out there that the Angels will want to sign. However, I wonder, John, and we're going to talk about spring training tomorrow, but I wonder if some of these guys that are coming in that are non-roster invitees, I wonder if a couple of those guys are going to be guys that we're going to see prominently in the bullpen, maybe not to start, but maybe in the middle of the year, because there's some really good names there. And I think the Angels don't want to put a roadblock in front of them moving up to the major league roster.
Definitely. Hey, I'm interested to get your take on this one. Nathan Davis said, our 2002 team Halos honestly overachieved. I think as a whole, this is a much better team. Can we put the pieces together and win this year? I think so. How do you feel about that? The 2002 team like overachieving, and how do you feel about them compared to this team?
Yeah, this one at first I was like, what? I don't know about that. But now when you look at that roster, especially that pitching staff, the starting pitching staff, John, there wasn't anybody that stood out that made you go, oh, that's the Verlander. Oh, that's the Chuck Finley. Oh, that's the Mark Langston, right? That's the Cole Hamels when he was really good, right? And so I look at this rotation we have now and I compare it to 2002. This rotation's better. The team is already proven to be better. The young guys have already proven to be better. And we have Shohei freaking Ohtani at the start. I think where things are different from 2002 is the bullpen. I'm still questioning some of the bullpen pieces. I do think that maybe Estevez is going to be a surprise. We're really going to like him. And I think Tepera and Loop are going to be really good. When you look at the bullpen in 2002, and they didn't even have Frankie Rodriguez to start the season, that bullpen was still kind of questioned. There was a lot of things that they weren't sure about. And then Scott Shields really developed that year. Brendan Donnelly came in and everybody was like, who's this guy? And he ended up being a rock star for us. And so even Ben Weber was a bit of a question during that time. And then he ended up being really, really strong for us. And so as I thought this through, I think Nathan has a really good point that they did overachieve. And I think this team is much better on paper, at least, than the 0-2 team. What do you think?
I think they got to overachieve this year too. I think they have to come out full force and not hold back when they start this season. Hey, coming up on Locked On Angels, is there a trade that the Halos could make to help this team compete in the playoffs? We're going to get to that in just a minute. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Mike, Locked On Angels, of course, is brought to you by FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get what's called the no sweat first bet, and it's up to $1,000. All you have to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers and threes that get made. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bet for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with the official sportsbook partner of the NBA, FanDuel.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day, and now make your second listen, the Locked On MLB Prospect Show with our friend Lindsey Crosby. He's talking about all of these young guys that are going to be non-roster invitees to the Angels and other teams, and you can learn about who these players are on his show. He's smart. He talks about those MLB stars of tomorrow, and his show is free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
We're answering your questions on today's Monday mailbag. Again, we're back to 5 days a week, so you can look forward to us the rest of this week as well. And then JCano89, James, on Twitter had this question, Mike. Do you feel there was a missed opportunity to hire a more experienced manager? Is Phil Nevin more important to the team's success than we think? Are you confident the coaches around him do a good job this year, especially now that Jeremy Reed is gone? I love this question, Mike, and I really believe in Phil Nevin for this season.
Yeah.
I think that he took those guys through troubled waters last season after they dismissed Joe Maddon. And you and I have been fans of him because of the way that he amps up the players and gives them the chance and the encouragement to continue. He did that with Jose Suarez right out of the gate, and he did it again later that season. I think that the guys really like being around Phil Nevin. I think Mike Trout has spoken to that as well. We need a bit of a hard-nosed guy, and we didn't have that with Joe Maddon. I think he was trying to foster a community in, Joe's vision, and that's fine because he was the manager. But I kind of like that Phil Nevin has a bit of an edge to him, and I think that it's great that Mariners fans don't like him. And I don't want Mariners fans to like our manager. I want them to be annoyed every time they see Phil Nevin. And the people that they brought in for hitting coach, Marcus Thames, and then you have Bill Hessel, who's going to be the assistant pitching coach. You and I were upset when pitching coach, Matt Wise, when Matt Wise couldn't figure out what was going on with Reed Detmers. They sent him to AAA. Buddy Carlisle fixed him. I think Bill Hessel, coming from Driveline, being the assistant pitching coach, is going to help stop those sorts of issues. I think that everybody has a good rapport with Matt Wise, and I think Bill Hessel is going to be there to kind of get into the nitty-gritty analytics. How are you delivering? Let's test that kind of thing and figure out what's going on. I hope that's the case, but I think Phil Nevin deserves another year. Let him work on this team. They're already familiar with them, and the problem is that with the ownership up in the air when it was kind of like, well, do we just have some consistency and bring back Phil Nevin, or do we go out and hire somebody else who might not be here in a year when Arte sells? So I think Phil Nevin was the right move. Of course, there are more experienced managers out there, but so far I'm a fan of Phil Nevin.
Yeah, he pulled a Simon and Garfunkel. He was a bridge over troubled waters, John. I really liked that reference. And we have a show later this week. We're actually going to do a deep dive on Phil Nevin, so we'll talk a lot more about that. But I agree with you. I think before they knew that Arte was going to stay, they needed to make a decision, and having Phil at least be here for another year brings some consistency to this team.
Definitely. Hey, Jason Jordan writes us on Twitter. He said, do you think the lack of a big budget arm, do you think the big Do you think the lack of a big budget long-term shortstop signing is a sign that Mr. Moreno is holding back for the big Ohtani contract this summer? Love the show and listen while at work in the UK. Hoping to catch a game in the flesh next season.
Love it.
Jason Jordan from Tamworth. Jason, thanks for listening all the way in the UK, my friend.
Is that
Mike,
Kurt Angle's son?
a
Wrestling
lack
reference.
of a big budget long-term shortstop signing. Do you think Arte was trying to save money for a Shohei signing?
I don't think so. I think Arte is always looking for ways to make this team more entertaining. He already said that, right?
And
so I think I know for Arte, I don't think he was thinking about, I got to save money here to sign Shohei. I think his priority is to sign Shohei, and he wasn't thinking about how he can really fill out this team. I think he allowed Perry Manassian to make those decisions, and I think Perry did a really good job with the budget that he had. But I don't think he was holding money back in one area so that he could save it for Shohei. I don't think he was thinking that far ahead, and I don't think that he cares about that stuff. I think he's just thinking again about entertaining and the entertainment value.
Yeah, that was a really frustrating comment to read with that that whole interview was frustrating because he gives John Heyman an interview.
Yeah, why the heck does John Heyman get that interview and not Sam Blum? Oh, because Sam Blum will ask really good questions and make sure that he actually gets really good answers. And John Heyman's like, Arte, do you like
cheese?
Green? Or do you like the color blue? Or ridiculous.
Oh man. All right. Elgato Gordo 7 on Instagram said, why are we waiting to make moves on players that are available to better our team? I think a lot of frustration came out of the fact that Alex Reyes was signed by the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Andrew Chafin was signed by the Diamondbacks. And here's the thing. I think that there is a lot of movement behind the scenes. Obviously, with Arte coming back, it kind of makes you question, well, are we going to do anything else? Because since he said he's not selling, we haven't done boo. And so it kind of makes you wonder. But I have seen that Zach Britton is still somebody that the Angels are connected to. I wonder about Matt Moore. I would love to see Matt Moore
be
a lefty out of the bullpen, especially with the year that he had last season. Britton's a fixer-upper, right? And of course, when he's on, he's very, very good. But you wonder with the injury history, especially as recent as last year, where the Yankees had to shut him down. That really is concerning to me. But perhaps he's good enough to come back. And then you got to think the players go where they want to play. And Andrew Chafin wants to play in Arizona. More power to him, right? Alex Reyes, it could have been the Angels signing Alex Reyes at $1.1 million was very affordable. Again, he's coming off an injury too, so that's a question mark. So area in terms of Dodgers Angels, like it's pretty much the same area where you're living. So that kind of throws a wrench into that decision as well. But again, it's players get to decide where they want to go.
Right. And, I did read an article while I was sick, and because that's all I could do. And there was a few articles that actually mentioned about the intrigue that people had to come and play in Anaheim. And so I think that when we see that players aren't signing with us, I think I want to be very clear, like, let's make sure that we're not saying it's because they don't want to play in Anaheim. It's what you're saying, that they're going to choose where they want to play, and that's fantastic. But there was a lot of intrigue. There was a lot of people asking questions. There were a lot of people that wanted to come and play here, and I think it really kind of boiled down to the money factor and how much that they were going to be paid. We know that Drury actually took less money to be here, and so I don't think it's as undesirable as Angel fans are feeling at the moment. And I think the Angels perhaps are really excited about some of these young guys that are going to be coming up. And again, they don't want to create a roadblock.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hey, Steve Thurman, who just found us and started listening and watching the show, he got a question for us. He says it's easy to forget how young Jo Adell is since he's been part of the Angels for so long. Even so, it feels more than ever to me that this is a make or break season for him. What are your predictions for Adell this season? And do you still see him as a long-term part of this team? Mike, what do you think about Jo Adell?
I don't think it's a make or break year. I think that this is going to be a year that is going to be a year where he gets to cook. He gets to marinate. He gets to be Jo Adell and gets to learn to be consistent Jo Adell. We know he's rock star Jo Adell. We know he can make the big play or get the big hit and not all the time and not in every moment, but we've seen it, right? He's the natural athletic Jo Adell. That's what we want from him. And I think what we've seen when he's struggled is he's thinking too deeply and he's getting stuck in his own head. And I think that what they're going to do this year is allow him to work through that nonsense in the minor leagues. And so I don't think this is make or break at all. And I think that perhaps the Renfroe signing for 1 year opens up the opportunity for a really matured, thoughtful, ready to go, consistent Jo Adell in 2024.
Yeah, I think that he'll spend time in AAA this season. I'd like to see him get a full season there because that way he can get past the head issues, the mind issues, because that's what's really holding him back. Like, he's an athletically gifted guy, and the roadblock for him is his own brain. And I think when he comes up to play in the majors, he puts a lot of pressure on himself. I think I said it a few weeks ago or a few episodes ago, but let the guy mash in AAA to get his groove back. Let Joe get his groove back and then come up and be ready when the Angels need him again. But I think as far as this year goes, yeah, I agree. I don't think it's make or break. I think that, like you said, he gets to cook in the minors. Let him have a super confident season. Let him feel good again. Let him work out the strikeout rate. Let him work out the kinks. Let him work out the mind issues, the head issues, and then he'll be back to being a rock star, like you said, in 2024. Hey, Locked On Angels is brought to you by Built Bar. If you are looking for a delicious treat, then look no further than Built Bar. You don't want all the fat and calories. You got to have a Built Bar because Built is actually healthy and tasty. These bars are so delicious and good for you. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. They got flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. These bars taste like a candy bar while remaining healthy. Here's the kicker: only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. So you're going to feel full after having a Built Bar or a Built Bar or a Built Puff. You ready for your first Built Bar? Here's 3 opportunities to grab a box. First, you can go to their website, as we've long told you to do, at built.com. They have a wide selection of bars and puffs. Second, you can go to your nearest Walmart, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a 4-bar box of Built Bars with flavors like cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs. You just can't lose. And then you have a third option. You can go to Sam's Club and get a 13-bar box with all their hit flavors like brownie batter and churro. You're going to want to grab yourself a big old box of Built Bars and Built Puffs because they're delicious. Mike and I love them, and we recommend them to you as well. Built, you got to try this.
All right, our final segment of Mailbag Monday. Our next question comes from Twitter at GoHalosForLife. Johnny, how will the bankruptcy issues of Bally Sports, especially if a judge forces them to restructure contracts, how will that affect teams like the Angels and impact those teams moving forward?
Yeah, the revenue rights are a big part of what the Angels make in terms of revenue. So I'm kind of laughing at Arte Moreno for not selling before his revenue stream from TV rights goes out the window. But I digress. Here's the thing. The thing about the Bally Sports issue is that they have to restructure and basically the people, the impact players, the investors in Diamond Sports Group and Bally Sports, they will become like proto owners in a sense, which is a really interesting way to do this. And that's why they are scheduled to not make their payment, because they don't know what the ownership collective will want to do. They are assuming that new ownership or restructured ownership will not want to make that payment that's due. That's why they're going to file for bankruptcy, right? And so I think, number one, we don't have to worry about the broadcast. I think MLB is going to step in and continue to let us watch those. Hopefully we can do it through MLB TV and there won't be any restrictions, because the reason there are restrictions is because of regional sports networks like Bally Sports, right? They want people to watch the games on their channel as opposed to watching them through MLB TV. But if that goes out the window and Bally Sports can't broadcast, then MLB TV is probably the best option, right? Now, the thing is, I don't think this is the end of Bally Sports. It's usually a restructuring is trying to continue to move forward. The ownership group, again, Diamond Sports, which falls under Sinclair Broadcasting. It's this weird pyramid of companies because Bally Sports is just a name. It's not its own company. It's under Diamond Sports. I really think it's going to be funny to watch what happens with these regional broadcasts and MLB takes over. One thing that I believe it was Angels Reddit on Twitter pointed out is, because our announcers are hired through the regional sports network, we might not get the same announcement team, which would be, a sad thing because we just got Wayne Randazzo and of course Gooby. We love Gooby. We want to hear his voice on TV. So that's going to be interesting moving forward. But what it comes down to is those rights are not a huge revenue stream. They're significant, but they're not the most important revenue stream for a baseball team. So I'm hoping that it won't impact the Angels moving forward. But again, Arte Moreno is the owner and he will pinch pennies. And if this revenue stream goes away, he's going to find a way to cut costs. And so while I don't think it will affect us this season, if they don't figure it out by the next offseason, then we might see it impact it in a small way. So yeah, that's what's going on with Bally Sports.
That's good clarity, John. I appreciate that. This one's from Garrett Varela on Twitter. He asked, who's your spring training standout for 2023 that will make it hard for the front office as they make decisions? He said he's going with someone like Levon Soto or Ben Joyce. I'm going to give you two names, John. I think Griffin Canning and Chris Rodriguez are going to make things really difficult. I hope they make things really difficult on Phil Nevin and PM. As they make decisions for what this roster looks like in 2023. Who are your two names?
I like those names, to be honest. I think I agree with you. I think Chris Rodriguez has done that before. He looked so good in spring training in 2021 that they were like, oh, we got to put this guy in the bullpen. This has to happen. And again, maybe Griffin Canning impresses enough to be that sixth starter that they come to count on. Again, we talked about it. There's only 16 sixth starter starts, right? So it's not like they will always need the sixth starter. In fact, you got a good 3 weeks before you're going to need one because of the way the schedule shakes out. Once the season starts. So I'm with you. I like those two choices. That's a great one. James, the gym guy on Instagram, said, "What major trade would you make to bolster the Angels' chances of making the playoffs?" Man, I think that they roll into June, late June, July, see what the need is, and see what's lacking. Is it bullpen? Is it starting pitching? I think that's what they need to do. As far as a major trade, I mean, I still really like the idea of Joe Adele for German Marquez because Marquez away from Colorado would be a significant benefit. And
I love that trade.
I know you're giving up a lot in Joe Adele because of the years of control versus German Marquez. But if you want to bolster the starting rotation, I think that's a move that you make. Hey, Mike, A. Nicky says, who you got in the WBC? He says the Dominican Republic. Who you got for the WBC?
I got to go with Trouty and the United States of America.
It's a good team.
He feels like this just feels like he's out to prove something, right? Like, I mean, we saw Mike Trout more at the Super Bowl as the Eagles were playing than we've seen him all season long, right? And I think that Mike Trout is looking to have some sort of badge that says, look, I can lead a team and lead them into victory. And I think it's victory or bust for Mike Trout. In fact, that's one of the quotes that you shared with us on Friday. It's victory or bust for Mike Trout in the WBC.
Now, here's the thing about the Team USA. I think the pitching, especially starting pitching, is a little lacking. Right?
Freaking Trout. He's always on the teams with the lacking
with the bad pitching.
Like, come on.
That's great.
That guy's got to feel jinxed, right? Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day. Now make your second listen, Locked On MLB Prospect Show with our friend Lindsey Crosby. He's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow, and his show is free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and, of course, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. We love hearing from you there. And then that way you can get into next week's Monday Mailbag. In the meantime, Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
John, I'm excited about this conversation. The Angels have invited 38 non-roster players to spring training. So we're going to share who they are, who we are going to be watching, and who we might see on the Major League roster in 2023. That's tomorrow, because we're back to 5 days, tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Glad that you're going to be here with us for that conversation. Again, we're back to 5 days a week, so we will be back here tomorrow, Tuesday, for more Locked On Angels. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
I'm going to get myself a lozenge 5 days a week. We got to work on this voice thing.
There you go.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us. That's going to do it for this episode, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.